Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Learning Gardener. If you haven't been here before, my name is Pip and welcome to my backyard. We've got tons of stuff to do in the garden. I feel like I'm super behind because most of my warmer season seedlings are not in the garden beds yet, despite my very best efforts. And we are halfway through spring now, so we need to get some of the cool season crops harvested, like this spinach, and I've got some giant spinach just over behind me in another bed that we're going to pick and then take inside. We need to get, these are green feast peas in front of me, and the last of them are more than ready to be picked, and the plants are covered in a powdery mildew. So because that's a fungal situation and I don't believe my compost ever gets warm enough, that will go into the garbage bin out the front rather than into the compost. But oops, I just pulled the whole spinach plant out. Oh well, we will shove that back in. What I want to do is move this whole panel towards me rather than have it sort of on that side of the bed, because I want to have this be a tomato bed again this summer. We had tomatoes here last year and that was great and wonderful, and they did beautifully because this is a nice sunny spot, but they cast shade obviously on this side of the bed, and I think it was just too large a space to really utilize well with crops that cope with more shade but still cope with our summer heat in Australia. So what I want to do is essentially flip that around and have a lot of sunnier crops on this side, have a smaller gap on this side, and have maybe some lettuce or some like capsicum on this side, because a capsicum here gets burnt a lot, and we do have some capsicums and hot peppers just along here that have survived from last year. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, and we're going to amend this bed, add a little bit more mushroom compost because I went and picked some up this morning, and hopefully that will mean our little fledgling however you say it, squash here will get a little bit more sunlight and maybe start to look a little bit healthier and grow up this archway. A bit tired, Reffy. We actually planted up this garden bed together not that long ago. This is the garden bed for the puppies because I raw feed them. Did you put your cricket ball in there? Thanks, darling. And I need vegetables as part of their food, so I decided to set up this garden bed just to see how it would go, and used some seedlings that had really failed to thrive over our cool season, but as you can see they're doing beautifully and they've come along nicely. Actually, these are the best broccoli that we have, even though when I planted them the seedlings just looked so tiny and miserable and like they wouldn't survive, and the kale were literally this big. They were tiny, and I'm so surprised to see that all of a sudden they have started to do well. But we've started to see an influx of cabbage moth, and so I want to get some of this picked and not on the floor, thanks Reffy, into the freezer, so that next time I make the puppy meals we have some yummy homegrown spinach and kale for you. Reffy, can you take your special birthday cricket ball somewhere else? Lucky these vegetables are for you, they're now covered in your drool. Okay, time to get all of this inside. Hopefully you guys can see, but there is a mess of flopped broad beans. Some of this is from wind damage because we've had terrible wind of late, and some of this is from Birdie coming out at night and defending the beans from critters, which is cute but also like not that helpful. So I can't even get through here, so hopefully I don't actually have to do that much to move this over, but we're going to have to deal with this because this is crazy. Yesterday I took out about 2 beds worth, 2 smaller beds, but 2 beds of broad beans, and I peeled them all last night and ended up with a 4 litre, which is I think about a gallon sized bowl full of beans, which will need to be frozen, and we've got a lot more to get. the broad beans are such a mess. I'm just going to get in here and deal with them now, but we've done a lot of broad bean work recently on this channel of clearing out the beds because I essentially planted them as a cover crop and because we've had massive amounts of aphid issues on the broad beans, so we're going to squash that squash bug. So I'm not going to actually show you guys the process. I'm just going to tell you that what I'm going to do is come through and obviously take all the beans off, and then tonight they will get processed while I'm watching TV. Got the big giant other bowl of them inside, and so I'll do them all at once. Stems like this that have rust damage on them, which is a fungal disease, will not go in the compost bin. They will go in the garbage bin out the front so as not to contaminate our home compost as much as we can. Whatever I can compost that is aphid free, rust free, whatever else we find free, I will compost whatever I can basically. And then anything else that is a contaminant, you're a good boy sitting, will go in the garbage bin. But I love when we end up with a beautiful clean bed at the end of this process. I do, I love it. I love it. Yes, I do. Because I also like it when the garden bed's all kind of tidied and you can see a bit of the mulch and it's not too overgrown. Raffy, what's wrong? What's wrong, my special boy? What's wrong? You want to have a chat, do you? I don't even remember what I was saying. All I know is I love a cleaned out garden bed where you have hope for what's to come, but no real idea yet what you will actually get out of the season. And as much as I enjoy doing a harvest, I don't love the way it looks when it's all full and exploding. I love that kind of beginning to medium phase where it's more about the hope of what's to come and the hope of what might grow and where it's still contained, because this is just a gigantic mess. So I'm going to deal with this and then we'll come back and keep going together. I've cleared out the broad beans on the other side of this fence and in that middle bed. A lot of them were affected by rust, so I don't know how many good beans we will get. And Birdie was also right. There was a rat or something in there eating those beans. It was definitely on the larger pods, and actually this one and this one have all been snacked on, which is interesting to see. So good props to my girl for hunting down the critters in the garden. She's very, very good at that. So what we're going to do now is, these are sugar snap peas and they have been delightful, but there are no more flowers on this plant and there are a ton of peas for me to pick. What I want to try and do with them is see if I can, I'll have to blanch them and then salt them and then freeze dry them and see if they taste like really nice like veggie stick type chips. That would be a really cool outcome if they do. To be fair, I could have done this much earlier in the season, but I ate them all, so that didn't happen. Some of them are actually exploding because they've been on the vine for too long. But what I'm going to do now is clean this part out. I'm going to move the fence over to that middle bed, because that middle bed I'm going to plant some more sugar snap peas probably in that. I've just got to see what kind of peas I've got that are ready to go, because there's a few different peas seedlings that are ready to go, and most of the seedlings that I've got that are ready to be planted are various climbing crops, so we need to find them some space. But I've left the broad bean roots in place so that they can compost in place. If you leave the roots in, which I'm not really worried about with this one as much, they will break down and they provide a good source of nitrogen to the soil as well as organic matter for the worms. So I'm going to leave them in there, but they are quite solid roots. I was thinking about planting potatoes in that bed because I did order some more potato seeds. I got some Nicola potatoes because all of my potatoes I had to harvest early. I've still got one more bed to do because they all got massive slug damage. Last year we had very little pest pressure, and this year already there's a ton more, and I think there's two reasons behind that. Number one, the weather has been crazy. So we had 12 full weeks of rain, including some floods, and I think that encouraged the slug population to multiply, which is unfortunate. And then the other reason I think we had less pest pressure last year is because the pests didn't know we were here. Because before that it was just an ordinary barren backyard, and now they've worked out that we're here and they're here for the snacks. So we're going to have to do something about that. I'm very slow in planting my Brussels sprouts, which I usually use for aphid control. You get to it when you get to it. So right now I'm just going to finish harvesting all of these, get these vines out, and they're all going to go, because they've got fungal problems as well, they're all going to go in the pile that will eventually make it out into the garbage bin out the front, along with these pots just in the front. They all need to go. But yeah, and look, to be honest, a lot of these broccoli are either done or nearly done. So I'll pull a lot of those, and then I'm going to get this bed ready for potatoes and that bed ready for more climbing peas or beans of to be determined variety. the day is nearly over and I can't believe it's taken all afternoon to do all of this, but what we're going to finish with is we're going to plant a climbing blue lake bean on this trellis. Now, I can't remember what type of bean I grew last year, but it turned into cousin it. So I have raised this trellis up a little bit higher, and hopefully that will be enough space. I have, what have I got, 15 plants. If that's not enough to densely cover this area, I will get some more seeds and sow them in at some other point. And then we've got 2 kilos of Nicola potatoes to go into this bed, and both beds have been amended. So what I will do is get them all planted in now and then water them in, and we'll worry about mulching tomorrow. The blue lake beans are all in, and tonight I will dig out some other seeds, like maybe some beet seeds or some different lettuce seeds to what we sowed yesterday, to plant in front and behind them to make use of the bed. But I need to go through and see what I have planted recently and what I haven't planted, so I have a nice succession planting. And then we're just going to get these spuds in and covered up, and I'm just going to cover them with a nice thick layer of mushroom compost and get everybody watered in and call it quits for the day. So I just want to say thanks so much for hanging out with us on another Learning Gardener video. I hope that you have enjoyed this one. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and hopefully we will see you in the next video.